Don't you hate it when it sneaks up on you like that?
That didn't sneak up on me.
No, I wasn't ready.
I'm always ready.
I was busy talking.
I'm a leader.
You are a leader. Blair and Barker. What?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even have to stay up late to do Blue Jays talk, so I have no excuse for not being ready. Hey, did you know that Garrett Crochet got thrown out of that game last night?
How?
For busting the umpires, you know what's about the rain delay. It was in
Pouring
the
down rain.
newspaper. Garrett Crochet ejected during the rain delay.
Seriously.
The 1 hour and 10-minute rain delay in the ninth inning.
Is that the worst organization in baseball?
It's not their fault.
It's not their fault about what?
The rain delay. It's got nothing to do with the White Sox.
Well, why would you argue then?
I think he was giving him crap for saying thanks for waiting that long. I don't know. I haven't heard an interview with him, but he was busting on him. Anyhow, he got ejected from the game. I thought it was kind of funny. Sorry.
That's amazing. It's
pardon
amazing.
me.
Pardon me.
I guess.
It is amazing when you're having a decent year what you say, right?
Well, anyhow.
To umpires, it is. Just saying.
So the Jays won 7-2 yesterday. The third and final game of the series is tonight, 7:40 first pitch. Looks like it should be okay. The Jays lineup is as follows. Yeah, it could be a sweep tonight.
No, it better not be. Could. I mean, it's a double-A team. I mean, it's not lie.
With the White Sox?
Oh, man. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Yes, the White Sox.
I had the Jays lineup here at some point. I don't think there's any big deal in the Jays lineup. Otherwise, I wouldn't notice something about it.
Kirk's playing.
That's right.
Danny's DHing to Turner.
Let me see here. Here we go. Schneider, Varsho, Guerrero, Bichette, Turner, Springer, Kirk, IKF, Kiermaier. So no Jansen.
Yeah.
Jansen's got the day off ahead of an off day tomorrow.
There you go.
I mean, load management, I would reckon. You win a couple of games in a row and you start sitting here.
Pull the shoot. Don't do it. Don't overdo it.
Alek Manoah gets a start tonight for the Jays against Chris Flexen. Again, a 7:40 first pitch. We'll be doing Blue Jays talk, providing they don't, drag it past midnight.
Yeah, Flexen's given up like a whopping 17 earnings his last 3 starts. That bodes 6 scoreless, don't it?
I was just gonna say, we don't even need to say that anymore. It's like anytime you have a crap pitcher. We just mentioned what they've done lately, and we automatically think, boy, he's got the Jays right where he wants them.
Sorry.
We got to stop doing that. We got to stop doing it. Yeah, we have to stop
14
doing
earnings.
It's going to be a long summer if we keep doing it. It's going to be a long summer.
Well, lefties are hitting 265, righties are hitting 260.
There you go.
So
there you go.
It's a good time to get healthy.
It's definitely a good time to get healthy. Kevin Gausman last night, 6 innings, 4 hits, 3 strikeouts, 1 walk. Continuing, at least according to Kevin Gausman, to sort of return to the, I guess you could call it the mechanical comfort zone that he's trying to reach. Davis Schneider had another good night at the plate. And by the way, Davis Schneider joins us at 5 o'clock, 3 for 4 with a run, 3 ribbies. And Davis Schneider kind of got the game going last night, 2-run double to make it 3-0 in the second inning. We saw Chad Green come back, get a clean inning in his return. No indication yet as to whether or not the Jays will make another roster move to get Bowden Francis. I wouldn't imagine they do it before the game tonight. He pitched yesterday, so with tomorrow's off day, I would imagine you'd maybe wait until Friday. It sounded like it went really well.
Yep.
It sounded like it went really well. And of course, yesterday that Eric Swanson was optioned, so another move would have to be made.
I just wonder where you'd use Bowden Francis. Like where are you putting him? Like when you put him in the pen, what's his role? Like you got to have a reason for bringing a guy on the roster.
Well,
right?
let's find out. Let's see what Alek Manoah does tonight.
There you go.
If Alek Manoah bounces back tonight, then it's a valid question. If Alek Manoah doesn't bounce back tonight, what did he go 4 2/3? His velocity was down his last start in his 4-seamer. If he doesn't bounce back tonight, then maybe you need Bowden Francis more than you think. Yeah, you don't have to bring him up.
Yeah, I know they've been working on Manoah's finishing over his front side. I know that's a big deal for him. He falls too much off to the first base side, like we see that, right? It's the instead of the arm finishing out front like that, if you're watching on TV, instead of this, right? Mm-hmm. When the ball goes side to side, your hand goes across your body and staying long out in front of your body where you can finish pitches, sliders tunneling longer, you'll throw harder. You won't miss so much arm side. You won't have those non-competitive pitches as much as you do when you fall off and your arm has sort of got an alligator look to it, right? It's by your face and it's finishing over towards the first base dugout. So I know they've been working really hard on that, and hopefully throw some more strike ones. He gets ahead. He can tunnel that slider, consistently have a good fastball. I mean, work through this lineup. Like, if any time to get healthy, it's against this lineup. I don't want to be mean, but man alive, that White Sox team's a tough watch. Like, they really are.
They are not very good.
They are not good. Like, you are what your record says you are. They're not a good team.
Did you happen, by the way, to catch the first game today of that Pirates-Detroit game? When does that go? At the bottom? Oh, they just started it right now.
So, no.
Skenes is pitching, yeah.
Yeah, it's Skenes Day.
Started it right now. Skenes Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just...
that means the Blue Jays are missing him. I mean, that's the most important part about all that.
They're missing him. They're missing Jared Jones, too.
Yeah.
So that is that's obviously a...
Win the next 4, you're at 500. That's how you're thinking about this.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we are. They've talked about, sort of the proverbial take it one game at a time thing, which in this case I think actually makes a great deal.
Then you're getting the Orioles and the Brewers and the Guardians. You sprinkle in the A's in there. Like, you're getting some teams that you're going to have to do a lot of things right to beat them. So this is important for the next 4 games for the Blue Jays.
You made our producer, Mark Boffo, do a little extra work today.
Yeah.
You wanted to talk about the Blue Jays hitting stats this season.
Well, it's not really.
Let me finish. Where they have a runner on third base with less than 2 outs.
Yeah, well, because we've been seeing a lot of situational hitting where you can get those cheap runs where you don't have to have a hit. And for whatever reason, the approaches with that situation when it comes about, no matter who it is hasn't been very good. And just some of those numbers, right? They're 20 for 77. That the 20 hits ranks 27th in baseball. Their average is 260. That's 29th in baseball. They have 13 sac flies. That's tied for 18th in baseball. They have 7 extra base hits with a runner at third and less than 2 outs. Like, that's tied for 18th in baseball. Like, again, it's the little things. When you're, not great throughout your entire lineup, it's those situations where you can get some cheap runs, some add-on runs like John Schneider always says when he's doing his little scrum after the game. It's just those little things, right? It's those where don't hit into a double play. Swing at a better pitch. Don't overswing earlier in the count trying to hit a 3-run homer instead of just putting the ball in play hard in the air to the big part of the field to drive in that runner at third. Slow your heart rate down a little bit. Those are the little things, right, that's very frustrating to watch if, you're a coach on this team and you preach certain things and then you go – watch your team, your lineup do this, the opposite of what you're trying to preach. So, it's I think it's just sort of added on to what the lineup sometimes consistently is not doing. And that's the frustrating part is, what if you did have a couple of other guys who, run producing can look many different ways. And I think those are one of the situations where the guy that walks to the plate with the runner at third and less than 2 outs, just look at where the defense is at, right? Know what that guy's trying to throw you to get you out. Know what he throws with 2 strikes. Know how hard he throws. Like, it's just the little things of getting very athletic, of trying to catch a ball out front. And you can understand if you're a Jays fan how frustrating that look. I know whenever I watch that, I'm very frustrated. I took pride in that. Again, I was the best of big leaguers. But if I wanted to stay in the big leagues, situations like that. So it's just one of those things where I noticed that last night where, big boy was, first baseman come up and it's out and around swinging a pitch he probably shouldn't have swung at because he overswung a pitch before that. It's just, that's little things like that. I think it's frustrating. Again, it's get to 500, then you're facing good teams. You may not have to do this against a double-A team like the White Sox, but you're going to have to do it against the Brewers and the Guardians and, the Orioles, obviously. So it's just little things like that. If they clean up, they can be a better team. They can help the guy stand on the mound, take a little breath, exhale. Every pitch doesn't act like it's the 7th game of the World Series.
Yeah, if you're wondering, we were talking about a little earlier. Jared Jones pitched today. They had a doubleheader, Detroit and Pittsburgh, and Jared Jones lost 8-0. He, of course, is one of the real exciting prospects. He lost in a matchup with Tarek Skubal, who's making an early season run for the AL Cy Young, and Paul Skenes is going in the second game of that series right now. But the reason I mentioned the Pirates, of course, is the Pirates are coming in town for 3 games after tomorrow's off day. And the Jays do miss their 2 front ends.
It's lined up. It's lined up for them to get to 500, play some good baseball, get some good pitching, get a timely hit when they need it. Get themselves out. Davis Schneider looks like he's turned the corner, and it's a lot of fun to watch him hit, right? And maybe some other guys, maybe Turner, look for a ball down. It's sort of in-game adjustments. Know that a team's trying to get you out with elevated hard stuff. Don't swing at it until you have to swing at it. Hopefully guys that are, not going so well can start going well, helping out the guys who are consistently having that competitive at bat. And maybe they can string together some things here, gain some confidence, and maybe their GM will go out and help them out a little bit and bring in another bat.
Maybe. Maybe.
So, asking too much?
Don't ask me difficult questions here. Don't ask me difficult questions.
It's too early for that.
So I'm going to ask you this in all honesty. Now, Davis Schneider, this has been going for a while. If you look at his numbers since he's been called up.
Yeah.
He's been a very, not just good, he's been a very good major league hitter.
One of the best in the American League.
One of the best in the American League.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are we at a point where we stop being surprised by that?
I think so. You know what I'm most surprised about is how he's willing to make an adjustment whenever. Like, if you notice, we've seen the toe tap from him. We've seen the leg kick from him. We've seen the taller posture, which is what we're seeing now from him. We've seen the more bent knee approach from him. We've seen him all day after day. It's not like he's married to, if I'm doing it this day, I got to do it 3 or 4 days in a row. What if I show up that day in batting practice and I don't like this? I'm going to stand taller. If I don't like it, like last night, it looked to me like he had a little bit more bend at the knees. Like, you haven't seen a guy before. You don't know which way it's moving. You don't know the situation of the game. When you walk up, it's like you're trying to hit a baseball hard, right? He's got a little hitch with his hands that he's trying to calm down, not eliminate. That's hard to do, is to eliminate that. But it's just how he's willing to, I guess, it's like the Vladdy thing, right? It's just so minor little move he's made moving around the batter's box. And this dude doesn't care. He'll kick it to his ear if he has to. It's just, that's a breath of fresh air to watch a guy actually not care. However he needs to get it done, he's going to do it.
I guess it really surprises me is the extra base pop. He's played 82 games now over 2 years, so a little more than half a season. We're talking about a guy with 25 doubles, got 1 triple, hit that last year, 14 home runs, 47 RBI. So roughly 162 game average for Davis Schneider. 49 doubles, 28 homers, 93 ribbies, a 914 OPS, a 156 OPS plus, which relative to what other hitters are doing in baseball. He's really good.
Yeah, if you look, he's hitting a little over 260 off the fastball. He's hitting a little over 260 off the breaking ball. Like, he doesn't really have a true weakness, right? And he goes up every time he talks to anybody who wants to ask. He goes up and sits fastball. Like, I'm going to look for that. I'm going to get it athletic. I'm going to get my foot down. The leg kick allows me to repeat. Just me being on time and balanced and allowing my hands to sort of stay in the same slot, not move below the baseball. Like, it's just little things like that which allow him to, sort of self-correct in swing, right? If I'm looking for a fastball away, he hangs a slider, it's middle in because I'm athletic and I got a lot of bat speed. I can pull my hands inside the baseball and I can hit that ball in the air to the pull side and I can be rewarded for it because of all the work and just the willingness to do whatever. That is what's the coolest part out of all this, right? Is he made it to the big leagues doing it one way, and then they made an adjustment. Now he's just sort of, okay, you want to do that? All right, I'll combat that with whatever I have to do to be the best Davis Schneider I can possibly be. I mean, it's something else. And he's forced the Blue Jays' hands to basically say, dude, your name's in the lineup every day. We're either going to put you at second or put you at left, or we're going to DH you. Like, you're in there basically every single day. And again, coming from basically somebody who, if you fell on him a year and a half ago, you'd have no idea who he was. Like, no idea who he was, which is just this is the absolute coolest thing in the world. So it's right. He's a remote stopper now.
Well, and it's
I know
also,
at least he is for me.
it's a it's a great organizational story. I mean, we've talked about how the minor league system is not a lot of people in baseball have a lot of great things to say about the Blue Jays minor league system. Let's be clear,
Yeah, it's not real good right now.
Routinely ranked amongst the worst in baseball. Bottom 8.
Yeah, I mean, potato.
Exactly.
There you go.
But here's a guy they drafted, they developed, and you're absolutely right. He is. It's funny because I think a lot of people are happy to see this for a variety of reasons, but I think it's also there was a feeling, there was a sentiment amongst the fan base for a long time that they had to move Davis Schneider up in the order. And for a while I kind of thought, okay, this is Toronto. Toronto falls in love with guys. I mean, they just do. They fell in love with John McDonald. They fell in love with Munenori Kawasaki. Now, that's just, it's Toronto. And they probably do it in other cities too. Sure. Underdogs, you glom onto those guys.
Cool.
But here it's kind of it's a Toronto thing.
He's earned it, I think.
And that's my point is he's not flavor of the month.
Nope.
He's not only has he earned this job, but I think maybe more importantly, I don't know how you feel about it, but I think maybe more importantly, he's earned the right to scuffle a little bit out of the leadoff spot and stay up there.
Yeah, I mean, what other option do they have?
Well,
if say Bo is a little sporadic all over the place with approach and the phone booth thing. And what I mean by that is everything's happening in a very small window, right? Mechanically, and just because it's all moving around in all kinds of different parts, still got to happen in that little phone booth, right? It can't get outside of it. That allows him to be able to use his hands and stay inside the baseball and ball go where he wants it to go. That's what I mean by the phone booth. So yeah, look, I just think sometimes you have to earn and be in certain situations that dictate where your manager's going to put you. And Jeff, we talk about this all the time. Even guys choking up, how sometimes it's surprising that they do it because it's odd, it's hard, it's a weird feeling. Mm-hmm. This dude does things after every pitch like it's just because one thing's not feeling well. You just change it up to give yourself a better chance of hitting a baseball hard because of how that dude's trying to get you out. Again, it's kind of cool. And I'll ask you this: you need one at bat
right now. Right now, absolutely. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, you could throw his name in the hat.
Oh, I would throw.
It's a small hat.
It's a. I don't.
It's a small one.
I was going to say I don't need a hat. I don't need a hat. I don't need a hat.
He's right there.
Yeah, he is.
He's right there.
I was thinking Vladdy's been in a bit of a heater right now. But ask me this: I need to drive a guy in. Oh, yeah.
Not at second. Guys at first. You need an extra base hit. Big part of the field can pull a off-speed pitch.
Davis Schneider would be 1. Jana would be 2. Then maybe Bichette and then Guerrero.
I mean, Danny's sort of cooled off a little bit, right? You can. Add and subtract. They're starting to pull the string. They're starting to make better pitches against him, right? That's what happens when you're hot. You got a game plan against him. You've been moved up in the order. They paid a little bit more attention to you. But look, I mean, it's again, it's like the Dalton Varsho thing. Dalton Varsho's made enough adjustments that, he's earned the lead in homers and RBIs on the team because of the mental adjustments, the mechanical adjustments, and just saying, basically, this is who I am. I'm going to try and be this until you force me to do something else. And right now, it's sort of working out for both guys. And it's, again, I don't like to say they're good stories, but man alive. You go back to that Davis Schneider thing, and I'll say this. I know a lot about the Blue Jays. A year and a half ago, you fall on him, you'd had to ask him what his name was. And I just think that's the coolest part of it is now you must have him in your lineup, and you're okay with him playing left field, and you don't hold your breath when a ball's hit to him in the outfield. And, I mean, it's just, again, you hear him talk about Matt Haig and the adjustments they make and, how it's just refining the hand movement, right? It's if it goes lower, I don't like the ball up. I got to keep the hands up to be allowed to sort of keep the barrel on the same plane to at least give myself a chance. That's what it's all about. You're not always going to hit it because not everybody can hit everything, but at least you can give yourself a chance. So you give everybody credit. Like everybody can throw their hat in the ring here and sort of take credit for what's going on with a couple of guys on that team.
Davis Schneider will join us at 5 o'clock from Guaranteed Rate Field. We also have a chance for you to see the Jays and Orioles at the Rogers Center next week, courtesy of our ticket trivia. And Paul Janish, the Director of Player Development with the Chicago White Sox. He'll join us in a few minutes as well. We may have a special guest at 5:30. We're waiting for
fingers crossed.
It'd be fun if we could get this.
Yeah, I hope so. Speaking of earning it.
You could say, I'm not going to give away, but you could say if Davis Schneider wanted a template, this guy we're talking about,
you give this guy a call.
Ask him
how he did it. Ask him how he maintained it.
Anyway, that's
it's a pretty cool story. Hopefully we get him on the air. And
hopefully we get him on. We'll get him on at some point in the next 2 days, but hopefully we get him on. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, we will be joined by a former teammate of Kevin Barker's. Of course, what would a day be without a former teammate of Kevin Barker's? Paul Janish is Director of Player Development with the Chicago White Sox. He'll join us next. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet. First pitch and fly at 7:40 tonight from Guaranteed Rate Field as the Jays go for the sweep against the Chicago White Sox. It'll be Alec Manoah on the mound, Chris Flexen. Tomorrow is an off day, although the Jays are unveiling their City Connect jerseys tomorrow. So
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Should be cool.
It'll be
nice.
I mean, I don't know what people are going to do when the jerseys are actually released, because there's an entire cottage industry out there of people making up jerseys and leaked jerseys. And
you're saying none of that's true, Jeff?
I'm just saying that it's a jersey. That's all. It's a jersey. There's obviously a lot of people with way too much time in their hands.
Yeah.
Way too much time in their hands. Or just simply not enough to worry about in their lives.
Maybe both.
Anyhow.
Yeah.
We'll know tomorrow.
There you go. Can't wait. Excited.
And then Friday, the Pittsburgh Pirates are in town. And it starts a little bit of a homestand. We've got tickets to see the Jays and Orioles next week. We'll give that away in the 5 o'clock hour after Davis Schneider joins us. But as we mentioned, the Jays have got a third game tonight against the Chicago White Sox at Guaranteed Rate Field. You know, of course, the White Sox are, I mean, I don't know if you'd say rebuilding, starting to rebuild, trying to lay the groundwork. I mean, they've got some pieces. The pieces don't stay healthy.
They're at the beginning, I think.
But they're at, well, you know what? We'll bring in our next guest. Paul Janish is Director of Player Development with the Chicago White Sox, former Barker teammate. And despite that, he's gone on to have a very successful career as a baseball executive. Paul, thanks for doing this, man. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, good to hear you guys. Good to be here. And, yeah, overcoming adversity of playing with Barker never hurt anybody.
Well, and no, that's true. It's been a good learning experience for me as well. I can tell you that much. Paul, wait, I'll just ask you right now, what are the White Sox? Like, where are the White Sox in terms of a development curve or just trying to reestablish themselves? Where is the organization exactly?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have turnover in the front office. You got a new GM with Chris Getz, a couple new assistant GMs. They, hire myself on the player development side. You know, I think it's evident Chris is making a push to try to acquire some talent. In the last 12 months, the minor league system has gotten a lot stronger. Obviously, the major league team's struggling up to this point in the season, but yeah, to your point about rebuilding or whatever term you want to use, I just think it's one of those things where there's some assessing going on, and at the end of the day, you gotta try to add talent where you can, and evaluate who makes sense moving forward, and then those kinds of things. But at this point, yeah, it's exciting to have be part of a regime kind of just getting going and be on the ground floor with a bunch of like-minded people trying to accomplish something.
Paul, how do you day to day? How do you relay messages? I'm assuming this is what you do, right? You relay the message from the people, the higher ups, to the everyday guys who are trying to grind it out and maybe become a big leaguer for the White Sox. How do you do the translating of the messaging on an everyday basis?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think ultimately, you just try to have, first of all, consistency of the message, right? And to be totally honest, Bark, and you and I can sympathize with this. It's a good time to be in the White Sox development system.
Yeah.
If you play well, you're going to have the opportunity to advance and hopefully get the opportunity to play in the major league. So, from that standpoint, it's kind of a message of opportunity on the player development side. And like I said, it'd be a system to be in right now, and if you're trying to prove yourself, to be honest with you.
Paul, when a new general manager takes over, or when president of baseball operations, whatever, when that person takes over, and obviously their focus has to be on the major league team, as well as the minor league system, is there a noticeable change right away in how business is done in the minors, or does it take a while for the stuff that's being talked about at the major league level to percolate down to the minor league level, to the coaches and to the development folks like yourself?
Yeah, I think like we mentioned before, it's first of all, you want to have a consistency of message. I think when you get the new guys at the top like we have, and they hire the guys and put them in place like myself, that it's because we're all on the same page trying to carry out the ultimate goal. I know Chris has been very, very upfront, very straightforward with saying he wants to be more athletic at the major league level, wants to be more versatile defensively, and obviously you got to pitch and those kinds of things. So it's there's we share some philosophical opinions with regards to how you want to construct on his side a major league roster, and then on our side how we want to what message do we want to promote, and the style of play, if you will, that we want to have coming through our system to be ready to supplement the major league team when the time comes.
Paulie, how much has this helped you being a former player? You going to watch a player, and you being a former player and seeing and being around really good baseball players. How much has this helped you sort of transition to going and looking at a certain thing from a certain player and going, man, he's athletic, or man, he's got baseball IQ, or da-da-da-da-da? How much has that helped you?
Selfishly, I think it helps a lot. You and I both. I think that I'll always look through a player's lens, and I think that there's some benefit to that when you are evaluating guys, and it's different if you're talking about a 19 or 20-year-old kid, in the lower levels versus a 24 or 5-year-old guy trying to break into the big leagues, right? Like, those are two different things, but I think it's a huge benefit personally, and I think in this current landscape, you got to understand too. There's a lot of resources that we have in a major league organization, with regards to the analytics team and things of that nature. So we got to put all our hands together. But I think when you're talking about a macro view, I think it's incredibly beneficial to have had the playing background.
When do you know when to start throwing analytics at a player?
Man, it's a unique question, Barky. It's like if I had you in our system, you still wouldn't be ready for the analytics. You know what I mean? So
you nailed that one.
Every player is different, man.
Yeah.
I think you gotta trust your staff, and that's something that we talk about. Honestly, it's a really good question, because we talk about that a lot, and you got to be careful giving players more than they need or more than they're ready for, and you got to trust your staff to be a little bit of a filter, and we've seen it already, and my background, having been at the college level as well, and dealing with this, a similar age group. There's so much information out there now that you got to be really careful, because the players they kind of understand it and they want it, but there's certain times in which that may or may not be beneficial within a game setting. Maybe it's in a training setting, and I know you guys had, I believe the other day, the power went out and the iPads weren't there, and some of y'all's players had said something. And I think that was a good example of understanding, look, let's not lose sight of the fact that we got to go out there and see the baseball and trust our eyes and trust our ability.
So, Paul, I would imagine, though, that a lot of young guys Guys, whether or not they've come through the college ranks or whatever. I mean, I'm sure if they've been playing perfect game or whatever, they've been in travel teams, whatever, they've probably had some exposure, have they not, to maybe not the high level analytics that you're going to get at once you join an organization, but they probably have some base understanding of it when they get to the minor leagues, don't they?
Yeah, 100%. And that's the world that they're growing up in. That's
Yes.
what they're exposed to, whether it's social media or, it's very difficult for a good young amateur player to grow up somewhere where they don't have access to a facility that has this type of data accessible to them. So they're 100% familiar with it. It's just the application of it, right? Like for, the example, if you're talking about a position player, trying to understand what the metrics of a pitch are, whether that's the vertical break or versus the velocity and the perceived velocity. It's some of those things. It's like if I was talking to Bark, back in the cage when we were in Louisville together, trying to figure out a way to get to Cincinnati, you talk to each other and a lot of times that'll tell you a story as well. If you can compare guys to another guy and things like that. And at the end of the day, that's what the numbers tell them, but we just have to make sure that they're interpreting it appropriately.
Paulie, how do you judge a pitcher? Is it power? Obviously velocity, I'm sure you throw in there. Or do you look more at pitching? I know injuries now all of a sudden are a giant thing, and we've had front office people on, and they're trying to make adjustments at the lower levels to get these guys to add and subtract a little bit more. Not so much of, let it eat for 5 innings. Have you seen that in your organization? Are you guys looking at it a little bit like that, or is it still, man, that velocity's really good? That'll play at the big league level too.
Yeah, you want them all to be big and strong and throw hard, right?
Yeah.
The nature of it is that's what the game is rewarding. So you got to be careful with how you present that to guys. But your point about health is really the main thing. We want to try to, help guys let their body move the way that it's supposed to move, and everybody's body is different. So that's number one where we start. Try not to put them in counterproductive positions, but. And I do think there's a lot to be said for what you guys are describing. I'm going to call pitchability, right? Like there is some add and subtract. There is some hey, pay attention to the swings that you're getting. The catcher can obviously help a pitcher. That's a trait that from calling a game can be extremely beneficial. But, at the end of the day, the game is rewarding power stuff, and that's what guys are looking for. And so, you just gotta use some discretion in particular on the development side. When you're talking about younger guys that, their body may not even be fully developed yet. Right. And so there's those things to consider, but I do think we're approaching a time where, some pitchability, within the realm of some power stuff is going to be sought after.
Paul, I wonder when you see a team like the Baltimore Orioles that has so many prospects, and they're in a situation right now where they're sort of trying to figure out how you don't have guys blocked, but you don't rush guys at the same time. Of course, we saw what they did with Jackson Holiday, having to send him back down. Look, both you and Kevin play the game. You've been promoted. You've been sent back to the minors. Is there any way, Paul, of doing it right? And what I mean by that is, how do you go about telling a guy after he's been brought up to the majors that he may have to go back down to the minors again?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a moving target. So to answer your question, I don't know that there's a way to get it right per se. Every organization has their evaluation, and the Orioles know Jackson Holiday better than anybody does, right? So, and in his defense, he never hit a speed bump. He played good all the way through the minor leagues, and it took him getting to the major leagues before he even hit a speed bump. And let's not lose sight of the fact that he's doing that at 20 years old, right? So he's a little ahead of the curve. But I think people lose sight of the fact that the big leagues is hard, right? And so we try to do on our side. We try to do a good job of preparing our players, just as much physically as we do mentally, and understanding look, this ain't, it's not supposed to be easy. You get to the major league, you get to play on TV, you have the opportunity to make, good financial living. That's a difficult thing to do. You gotta have your game right, because nobody feels bad for you as we talked about when you get to the major leagues. But I don't think it's a bad thing though. Like if somebody gets to the major leagues and struggles a little bit, has to go back down and then come back again, that there's a lot of really, really good players over the course of the history of our game that have done that. and it's okay, right? Like I don't think just not getting it right on that first try, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I think what we can all agree is that's going to provide perspective, right? It's just more information in the database so that when you come back up that second time, that heart's beating a little bit slower and you got a little bit more expectation of what's going on.
So far in your new gig, what's been the toughest thing? I know I've talked to you. You've had to release guys before already in your small little time here doing this. Hardest thing, what's been the toughest thing where you've went home and you had a conversation with yourself? Man, that's not the easiest thing to do. What's been the toughest for you?
Yeah, the release thing is a big deal, right? We all have experienced that at some point in time, and you just don't want to take it lightly. So, like for me, we've got some systems in place to where we try to do the best that we can to include some people on some of those tough decisions so that we don't miss anything. Hopefully, not let anything slip through the cracks. And as we can all sympathize, you're not gonna get them all right. Like there's guys that have gotten released, have gone to other teams and become all stars, right? So. Yeah. That for me is probably the most difficult thing because it's in the current landscape with the reduction of the numbers and in a lot of instances you're telling a guy he's never going to play again, at least not in affiliated baseball, and that's a tough deal.
Paul, what can you tell us about Colson Montgomery? He's a guy that the Arizona Fall League was very impressed in the Arizona Fall League. He's a shortstop. I think he's like 6'3", 230, 225. Is he going to stay at shortstop? Is he a guy that may end up having to move off just because of his size? How would you approach that as a former infielder? How would you approach making that decision as to whether or not, maybe not specifically to Colson, but whether or not it's time to quote unquote move a guy to another position?
Yeah, it's Colson's a really talented kid. He's similar to kind of what we were talking about Jackson. He's had a lot of success in the minor leagues, and he's in AAA right now. He got off to a relatively slow start. He would tell you the same thing, and he's just kind of getting his feet on the ground and starting to get going, hopefully offensively. But the position thing's tough, man. I think at the end of the day, you got to let them play, and you got to let them prove that they can't do it before we decide that they can't. There's certain guys that. There's a knack for playing in the middle of the field, right? And so, like over the course of time, you develop, some instincts and some awareness to, with certain guys pitching versus certain guys hitting. Maybe you don't have the most range, via StatCast, but you still get to the same amount of baseballs. I played with a guy named J.J. Hardy who won some Gold Gloves. Who,
yep.
By the letter of the law, he wasn't like the fastest, quickest guy, but he converted more ground ball stops than a lot of guys in a lot of years. So. I just think you got to take those things into consideration. You got to let him play. And Colson's young, man. He's again just getting going, super talented. We're just hoping to come to the conversation we were just having. When he gets to the big leagues, he's there to stay and ready to play there every day.
Paul, really good of you to join us. Great to talk to you again.
Congratulations, buddy.
Yeah, man.
Keep it going, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, congrats,
Thank you,
Paul.
guys. Good to be here. I'll be again. Hopefully, we'll do it again.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Take
buddy.
care.
See you soon.
See ya.
Paul Janish is director of player development with the Chicago White Sox, and I always like to tell the story. Derek Jeter in his first year had so many errors that there were some in the Yankees organization that wanted to move him to center field.
Yeah.
And Brian Cashman will tell you the story about how, there were some fights in that organization. A lot of the player development people wanted him out. Yeah, in center. They just didn't think he was going to be a good defensive shortstop. There's a whole cottage industry of criticizing Derek Jeter's defense, especially as he got older. But he had a pretty good career as a shortstop. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Routine play. Make it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And, it is a difficult, the whole idea. And the Jays faced the same thing. I don't think you never crossed paths with Josh Phelps, did you?
No, I don't think so.
Big catcher. I want to say he was 6'4", 6'5", maybe around there. And there was, and I think he ended up playing DH and playing first base because the thought was he was just a little too big to be a catcher.
Yeah.
And you see that. It's not unusual, and then you look at, what is it, the San Diego Padres. opening day, they started a lineup with 9 converted shortstops.
Yeah.
Right. Or 8 guys were converted shortstops.
Yeah.
So it always has kind of intrigued me. But when you decide to take a player who was drafted at a certain position, and I mean, it's one thing to say, we want you to play a little bit of second, we want you to play a little bit of third, we want you to be versatile. Okay, yeah, fine. Versatility is great.
Yeah.
But another thing to actually say to a guy, we might want to move you across the diamond, or maybe we want to move you into the outfield. That's
the benefit is he's with the White Sox. I mean, he's got time. Like they're
Paul's point was great. If you're a minor leaguer, that's a good organization to be in right now.
Absolutely,
you might get a look.
You can impress quick. Like they're gonna advance guys quicker because they want to be somewhat relevant at the big league level and not be an embarrassment like they are now. Like right now, it is truly amazing how a baseball team at the big league level can end up looking that way. It's very hard to have 14 or 15 wins this late in the season. But again, I think the White Sox at least are trying to outline the sort of the biggest part of how they're going to develop their organization with guys like Paul. Like Paul's a very heartful thinker when it just comes to having a conversation with a kid because he's been there before. That's why I wanted to ask that about how's he translating the former player to what he's doing now. You got to remember how hard it is. And I think that's what you could take away from that is it's not the easiest of games. Dudes are going to go through it. And to actually have a guy like Paul to walk up and go, hey, I've been there before. Like, Paulie wasn't the greatest of hitters. I played with Paulie. I used to make fun of him all the time. That's just the way it was. He's talking about that cage thing. That was more me ragging him because he wasn't very good at hitting. But the more he did it, the more he hung out with people that can hit a little. He got better at it because he worked at it, and you surround yourself with the right people. And, because he was a great defender, gave him opportunities. Really absolutely. Opportunities
was he a catcher at one point, too?
I don't think so. I think he was more second baseman and shortstop, and he had a really good arm. That's what I remember, right? He could throw a lot of flat foot from short left field to first base, and I think that's sort of what kept him in the big leagues. And, it was Dusty Baker was a big fan of his, too. So, it was – again, I just think you got to surround yourself with the best people who have been there and done it before. You can throw all this analytics you want to throw at it. Sometimes organizations have to have experience. People that have been there and done it before and have been through tough times, not the superstars, but the people like Paul Janish and like Kevin Barker who have been there before and been through hard times and been released 5 times. Twice the last day of spring training. Not the easiest thing to go through. Paul's been through the same kind of thing. So to actually have an organization be willing to put Paul in situations like that it's going to quicken, I think, the process, which is a big deal.
Yeah. And we've talked about this a lot. Baseball is skewing younger. Teams are certainly less reluctant to bring young players up than they used to be, for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is they're cheaper.
Yeah, your evaluations have to be quicker and on point
your
more
evaluation,
too, right?
Yeah,
it's harder to do that with baseball IQ and experience because they just don't have a ton of time.
Yeah, and and I'm sure everybody who, any reading you do in Jackson Hall, he's going to be fine. He's not it's not like going down to the minors is going to set him back. But,
Didn't help me any.
There was a graphic on MLB Network a couple of days ago, and they were plugging in Orioles prospects at different positions and who is already there.
Yeah.
Right now, they're not going to be able to fit, and I'm not going to say that they're all come July 29th, all 9 Orioles prospects are going to be major league ready. I'm not saying that, but they were talking on the MLB Network about how you do have to have a plan to bring these guys up.
Or trade them. I mean, they need bullpen arms. They're trying to win a World Series, right? They got a team good enough to do that. They don't have a bullpen good enough to win a World Series. You're going to have to fill in the blanks that way.
One of the discussions was their talent is their top-end minor leaguers are so elite that to trade one simply to get a bullpen. Now, it's one thing if you're going to trade one let's say you're going to trade one to get Mason Miller, a guy who you've got control of for 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
or 3 or 4 years. That's different. But the point they were making is some of these guys are so good that to trade 4 years of them for a year of a reliever,
Yeah, you probably wouldn't do that, right? But again,
you're not getting real. But at the same time, hey, we know an organization that hasn't been able to win during their window of opportunity. If you're the Baltimore Orioles, this is your window of opportunity.
Yeah, and you know as well as anybody, organizations think differently of every other team's prospects. Like their 9th or 10th prospect, maybe the Oakland Athletics like him more than they like the 5th or 4th
we've
prospect.
always talked about that,
right? The top end, you're probably not going to get rid of those guys, right? The future matters for the Orioles. You want to bring up a plethora of athleticism. Listen to Paul. That's the first thing they're looking at is line your organization with athletes
and
running all over.
Versatility.
I can teach them how to lay off a breaking ball or not get thrown out going first to third. Like I can teach them how to do that. I can't teach them how to be a great athlete. So, yeah, look, I think the organizations are, you got to sort of know how to give a little and not overwhelm them with the process. That's the thing, right? You got to remember it's a game. You're supposed to have fun. It's just not supposed to always be a job. Your job sort of takes place when you get to the big leagues and know that you're a big leaguer now. Now it's probably no more fun as it was when you were trying to become a big leaguer. I went through that. A lot of people go through that. It's how you handle that, which determines on how much money you're going to make. So, yeah, it's intriguing. Yeah, the White Sox got a long way to go. I mean, Paulie would never say that, obviously, because he's, sort of leading the pack when it comes to that lower level kind of thing. They got a long way to go.
They got a long way to go.
And it was just odd in the division they play in that they have as long as they do have to go.
And it's because, again, we're going to say this, the division is not weighted for them.
It's not, but it's not the greatest of divisions either. I mean, you can get it going a little quicker and figure it out in a little bit more of a hurry. Shouldn't take you 5 or 6 years to figure it out.
Maybe,
you know better.
But
it shouldn't.
No, but you are chasing teams that have a good head start on you. Kansas City's got a head start on you. Minnesota is always going to be, they're always going to figure it out somehow. They're a little bit like the Twins, or they're a little bit like the Rays, but in a bad division or a worse division. And and the Tigers have got some arms. Mm-hmm. But you're right. I mean, look, if you were going to pick a division to
do what they're doing,
the NL Central might be the other division. But certainly in the American League, I don't think there's any doubt.
Like if it was me, I'd figure out how to keep Luis Robert Jr. on the field. I think I read some stat where since 2021, he played 58% of their games.
He's not played a lot.
Like he's like the Mike Trout of that division. Like I think is something they need to figure out. Change positions, DH him. I think something there has to give where if you want to start somewhere, he's young enough. Everybody says he's got 6 tools. You gotta, I would think if you want to start somewhere and build around a guy, 6 tool guys aren't the easiest to find, right? You already got one. Figure out how to keep him on the field, so I'd probably start there. That might help.
Yeah, no, the other way to look at it.
Or trade him to the Blue Jays.
I was going to say the other way to look at it, though, is if you think you're 3 years away, maybe you trade him now and try to get something.
They're 3 years away.
Yeah, they are. They're 2 years away from being a year away, right? Davis Schneider of the Toronto Blue Jays joins us next. We've got Jays ticket trivia, your chance to see the Jays and Orioles at the Rogers Center. Maybe we'll have another guest or two as well. See if we can work it out. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. All right, well, I don't think anybody needs to tell you how good Davis Schneider has been this year or how good he has been since he's come up to the major leagues. But I'm going to give you some numbers anyhow. This is through yesterday. His .914 career OPS since he made his major league debut on August 4th is third in the majors behind Aaron Judge and Kyle Tucker. His 156 weighted runs created plus is also third. Through a player's first 82 MLB games in Blue Jays history, Davis Schneider ranks second in extra base hits, second in doubles, second in on-base percentage, second in OPS, and fourth in slugging.
pretty good.
Yes, indeed. Pretty good. He's gotten his career off to a great start, and we're very pleased to be joined by Davis Schneider. Davis, thank you so much for joining us today. We greatly appreciate you taking time out before a game to talk to us, and we trust that you're doing well. So you're the everyday leadoff hitter right now for the Blue Jays. Has that changed anything in your mind in terms of approach, in terms of mental preparation, anything like that?
No, but I appreciate you guys for having me on. But when it comes to the leadoff, no, I try not to change too much up when it comes to my approach, just because I feel like no matter what position you are in the lineup, it shouldn't really change. You're still trying to get on base. You're still trying to put together good at bats. So it doesn't really change that much along the lines of my approach. But I mean, if we're at a home game and our pitcher kind of goes long in the first inning, I'm definitely going to take at least the first pitch or kind of see a couple of pitches so our pitcher kind of gets a little bit more rest. Other than that, really nothing really changes when it comes to being the leadoff guy.
Davis, adjustments are so hard to make at the big league level as an everyday offensive player, but we've seen you with a toe tap. We've seen you with a leg kick. We've seen you stand taller. We've seen you bend at the knees. And we've seen you make an adjustment like every other day. How have you been able to do that?
I've been doing it since I could really remember playing baseball. I've always kind of tinkered with my stance and my setup and everything like that. Obviously, my swing is basically the same, but it's just like my stance and my setup. It all really depends on the feel I have that day. I like to kind of like switch things up, and sometimes I like my hands higher, sometimes I like my hands lower. I like a little crouch of a stance. I like a little bit being a little bit wider. So it really depends on the day. I think change is good sometimes. If you feel uncomfortable in the box, I feel like you shouldn't really stick with that. I feel like you can change a little things to feel a little bit more comfortable so you can see the ball a little bit better. So I believe in, making minor changes. Obviously, your swing is going to stay the same, but if you can feel like you're more comfortable in the box, I feel like you should go for it no matter what.
Davis, why do you stand taller and leg kick? How does that help you at the plate?
It makes me kind of see the ball a little bit better when I'm a little bit lower to the ground. I can't really see the high pitches as much. Makes me get on top of the ball a little bit better when I have that high leg kick. Sometimes I feel like when I have a high leg kick, I can really be a little bit more on time sometimes, so I have to tone it down a little bit. But it really depends on the day, depends on BP and the way I'm feeling. But it switches from time to time. So you might see me in a different stance in a day or two. So you never know.
In your swing, are your hands in a good spot now?
Yeah, they feel in a good spot. Maybe tomorrow they feel they're going to be in a bad spot. So, but as of now, they are. I've been tinkering a little bit with my hands a little bit higher just because I'm missing under the ball a little bit too much. So I feel like hiring my hands for right now has put me in a good spot to make sure I'm in a higher zones where I can hit the ball a little bit harder on high pitches.
Davis, your consistency against different pitching is one of the things that really has stood out to us against fastball, off speeds.
Yeah.
Pick a pitch. The numbers are pretty consistent. How would you explain that? Does that just simply come down to consistency of approach? Because as well as anybody, even great hitters sometimes there's a huge disparity in terms of what they can handle and what they can't handle.
Yeah, big league pitching is the best in the world, but at that same point, I try not to overcomplicate things because if they were that good, they would have 0 ERAs all the way around. So I try not to put them on a pedestal, even when it comes to like the best pitchers like Garrett Cole, like Verlanders, all those guys. They're going to make that mistake. So it's just up to me that day to be ready for that mistake. And sometimes it's one mistake, sometimes it's 3. You just got to be ready for it. And sometimes it's none at all. But as long as you're ready for it, you're putting yourself in a good position to make sure you're doing some damage on that pitch.
What's been the biggest challenge for you? I know mine when I was a player, when I tried to play, it was the plate awareness. I chased balls in off the plate because I really didn't know where the plate was at. That's why I moved around the batter's box a lot. Is there something, a key that you tell yourself every single day that if I do this, I'll have success at the big league level?
Yeah, just kind of like what I said before, try not to overcomplicate things. Try to simplify as much as you can. Try not to do too much when you're up there. Your swing is your swing, and if you try to do too much with runners on or even with runners not on, you're going to put yourself in a little bit of a hole. So just try not to do too much when you're up there, and just kind of simplify it the best you can and, go from there. Just try not to make big league pitching a little bit more bigger than it is.
Yeah, I think long, think wrong. I mean, that's a pretty easy approach. Defensively, how hard is it to go from left field to second base?
It's not too hard as long as I'm putting in the work before the game. It's pretty. I wouldn't say easy, but it's an easier adjustment. Just because I'm getting used to the outfield now. I feel like I've played enough games out there to get a little bit more comfortable and feel like that's like kind of my second home. But as long as I'm putting the work in the practice, then I feel like I'm good that day.
Okay, tell me if I'm wrong. It looks to me like when you're at second base, you drop down sidearm a little bit more when you throw the ball wherever you're wanting to throw it. I saw you do it on the double play. I've even seen you do it on a routine ground ball. You're throwing it to Vladdy. You sort of drop down sidearm. In the outfield, you don't do that. Is that something you have to think about? Or does it just come second nature to you, knowing that I'm in left field, I got to stay on top of the baseball? I'm at second, I can sort of throw it because I'm closer to where I need to throw it to any way I want to throw it.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the position. Like when I'm out left, I think about it a little bit. I got to get on top of the ball to get a little bit more spin on it. But when it comes to second, that's kind of more of my natural throwing motion. I like to kind of drop down. I don't really have to think about doing that. That's just like my natural position to throw from down a little bit lower, just because I've been doing that majority of my life. Even from when I played third base, I kind of dropped down a little bit. But I was just more comfortable throwing from down there, so I try not to think about it when I'm at second. But left field, I got to think about it a little bit just to get on top of it and get more spin, try to get a little bit more on it. But, it really depends on where I'm playing.
Davis, when did you get a sense that you were on the cusp of going to the major leagues? What was it, a particular month? Like, was there a time where you kind of thought, man, okay, I can see this coming?
The day I got called up was the only time I really thought about getting to the big leagues. I mean, because even when I got drafted, I didn't think I was. To be honest, I didn't really think I was going to go to the big leagues just because I thought I was talented enough, but like the odds of getting there was pretty slim. I just kind of wanted the opportunity, but no, I didn't. Even when I was doing well in AAA, I didn't really think it was a possibility just because the guys up in the big leagues were doing well. I wasn't on the 40-man at the time, so getting on the 40-man was kind of the toughest part about it. But sometimes I still don't believe I'm here. It's just that much of a dream come true for me.
Davis, is there a player you met that you went home to your family and it's like, yeah, I finally got to meet this guy that I dreamed about meeting, and he was pretty awesome? Is there a certain guy that you looked up to that you finally got to meet and it was pretty exciting?
No, I mean, Trout was my favorite player growing up. He's obviously from the same state as me. He lives about 25, 30 minutes from me back home. So, I mean, I haven't played the Angels yet. Obviously, Trout is hurt. But, playing against Ohtani, Judge, Soto, those are cool guys to kind of play against. But, like I said earlier, I try not to make a big deal of playing against these guys. They're all human. They all put on the pants the same way I do. So, obviously they're good at baseball, but, they're just human beings at the end of the day.
Are you and Ernie having as much fun and enjoying it as much as you seem to be enjoying it? And I mean that in a positive way. Like it just seems, Kevin, we were talking about this. This is a good organizational story. Guy gets drafted. Yeah. You say yourself, I think you're going to make it to the majors just because of the way things are. You talked about how just getting on the 40-man roster was hard. And you're in the majors. Like, it seems to me it's kind of that's a good organizational story. A lot of people, yourself included, must have done a lot of right things and made the right call at the right time to make this all happen.
Yeah, I mean, it is cool to share this experience with Ernie. I mean, I just met him last year. So when he signed with us, he was with the Indians and the Athletics before. So we didn't really meet until last year, and we kind of just grew into a friendship just because of all the things we have in common when it comes to golf, off-the-field stuff. But, yeah, I mean, just playing in the big leagues is just an awesome thing to experience. Like, if I go 0 for 4 with 4 Ks, there's worse things in the world than, going 0 for in the big leagues, right? And so, you just got to make sure you take a step back sometimes to kind of look at all the things that, I have. And, there's worse things in the world, like I said, than doing bad in the big leagues. So obviously I work hard and try to get better each day, but you just got to make sure you're grateful for the things that you have,
Davis, how's the clubhouse? I mean, it's been a sort of a slow start for the Blue Jays. You guys are trying to find your way. It looks like offensively you're starting to, come into form and be the team offensively you guys want to be. But how's that sort of whole clubhouse been sort of through the struggles here early?
Yeah, I mean, the vibes are good. I mean, the guys are great. We have a very talented team. We're capable of doing great things. I feel like we're we're on the verge of doing that. We won 2 against Chicago. Hopefully we can win the 3rd one tonight. But no, I feel like we're just about to put the pieces together because, like, I feel like we haven't really been firing all cylinders at the same time. And once that happens, I feel like we're one of the best teams in the league. So I think we're right there, and we're bound to turn it around right here.
Davis, we're going to let you run and get ready for tonight. Thanks for doing this, man. Keep it going. It's been great talking to you, and believe me, it's been a whole hell of a lot of fun watching you play too. So keep it up, man.
Good luck, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good one.
Davis Schneider of the Blue Jays, and he said something to me that really, really stuck out from that interview, and I think kind of puts into context how hard it is to get to the majors. When he said it was just hard enough getting on the 40-man roster, like, we forget about, and you're smiling because
I've done it.
They're
make more money on the 40-man team.
And you know what? It's political in baseball. Guys who were chosen early in the draft, a lot of scouts have put their reputation at stake there.
Yep.
Scouting director's got his reputation at stake there. Some general manager in some ways too. So you're going to give your top guys an awful lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
And you just are. And the guys who were drafted, what was Davis? Was he in the, I don't know, I even know what round he was
lower
taking.
Levels. Yeah.
Lower level draft. But, I'll try to put this politely. I'm sure the first year or 2 years in the majors, he may not have had a lot of people in his corner as some other guys in the organization.
Oh, absolutely. Again, what he's done mechanically to be noticed.
Overall, he was the 849th pick in this draft.
Just to be noticed is a big thing, right? To go to a different level, to get called up to AA, to get called up to AAA, to even be in the conversation of getting called up to the big leagues. But even then,
like, you got to get on the 40-man before they can. And we know. I mean, how many times have we heard, and this is not just a Ross Atkins thing, Alex Anthopoulos used to say it too. How many times would a general manager say, yeah, but we got to create a 40-man roster spot for him? Well, we all roll our eyes because, well, come on. I mean, look at this guy in this roster. You can get rid of him. But you got to understand that organizations have vested interest in some of these players, and they have value attached to them. It's just not always the easiest thing. And the thing about guys like Davis Schneider is those are the guys that fall through the cracks sometimes. And those are the guys who end up playing for the San Diego Padres, and you're looking and going, hell, I think I saw that guy in spring training. Oh, yeah, they DFA'd him, or 2 years ago. And those are exactly the guys that fall through the cracks. So I'll put it this way. Where would the organization be without Davis Schneider?
Yeah, I mean, they'd probably be in last place still. I'll just sit back. I think it's again. I think just the good story.
I'll put my pom-poms away.
He's earned exactly what
he has
to be a big leaguer, and I think listening to him talk, you can understand how he's pieced it together, right? You got to believe it. You got to know that you got to do this to be noticed. He did that. Now you got to, make adjustments because this guy's trying to get me out this way. You can't be stubborn and say, I got to the big leagues doing it this way. How dare you force me to change and do it another way? He ain't that guy. He can't be that. He has to change to sort of succeed. Stats matter to him. It's not hard hit percentage. It's stats matter. Because if he's not hitting, he's not playing. Simple.
Can you explain to me, as someone who's played the game, what Davis Schneider means when he says he's talking about all the adjustments he makes?
Yep.
But it doesn't really change my swing.
Yeah, well, again,
hands. I would think moving your hands would change.
It's timing, right? It's how you get your foot down in an athletic position to get the stretch. I think that's what he's talking about, right? He does have a little hitch in his swing, meaning his hands sort of follow his lower half. He doesn't want that. He wants his hands to more go in a backwards motion instead of a downward motion, because when it goes down, where's it got to go? It's got to go back up, right? And when his weakness is the elevated fastball, it's going to create a loft in his swing, and it's going to be real hard timing-wise, to get it back up, catch it out front, and be able to at least foul that off to fight another pitch. So his lower half sort of is dictating what his hands are doing. It's the old saying, it'll never change. Your hands are going to do what your feet do. It's not the other way around. If my feet are all out of whack, and ask Justin Turner, if your feet are all out of whack, your hands are going to be playing catch up. Everything's going to be late. You're not going to be having contact, or the point of contact is going to be all over the place. It's going to be very sporadic. So with him, what he's basically saying is, as long as I can get my foot down, that will allow me. He's changing so he sees the ball better, not to do different things with timing of his front foot or where his hands go, which is, I think, why he can sort of change on the fly. Yesterday, he was crouched more. He wasn't as tall. Could be different things. Could be just woke up and didn't feel right. And said, in batting, he said his batting practice sort of tells him what he needs to do that day. I mean, hey, it's actually genius to think that batting practice actually matters. You've watched enough batting practices. Do they actually go out there and always work? Or is it, look, my buddy's playing, I need to run over there and talk to him. Davis is not like that. He needs to get a good feel. I was that way. If I couldn't hit homers in batting practice, I was going in mentally defeated because I was thinking something was wrong. He sort of sounds like the same kind of way. So, yeah, everything he's doing and saying and his acting it's working, man. Good for him. Hopefully he continues to do that because it's a great story. They're going to need him. Like, they're going to need him to continue to do this. They need somebody to have an MVP month. Could be Davis. Could be Vladdy. Could be Bo, but somebody's going to have to do it.
You know what I was thinking? What I was thinking is, because of the way the All-Star game is now, and because they have that fan vote, which I happen to like, the fan vote for the final vote, whatever it's called, where you vote, they pick a couple of players and you've got to choose between them. And quite often it's a player who's emerged, a fan favorite, if you want to call it that. If Davis Schneider can keep putting up numbers,
yeah,
he might be a guy that gets in one of those things, which, and I've said this before, I love the All-Star game. I love the fan vote.
Yeah.
I know what it is. I know I'm not always going to see the best players in the game, but by and large, I'm going to see, first of all, the game itself is going to generally be pretty good, but I like the fact that so many doors are open for good stories to get into the All-Star game. And that's something I keep thinking of when I see Davis Schneider.
I mean, who else are you going to vote for other than Barrios for the Blue Jays? Like, if you're a fan of the Jays.
Yeah, well, and the pitchers are chosen by the manager. So,
yeah.
But I mean, that aside, Davis Schneider is the type of guy that people get behind.
Yeah.
He is the type of guy people get behind.
I'm behind that. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying it would be the same as, the Jose Bautista mania when Jose Bautista kind of had his renaissance and people, basically it was the fans that got him in the All-Star game.
Well, he's hitting homers.
But,
like lots of homers.
Davis
like big homers. Like big homers.
Like I said, it's exactly the type of guy that people get behind, though.
Absolutely. Good for him.
Yeah, and as I said, it's a great story, and I like watching the guy play. And I'll admit, as I've said, I'm used to Toronto fans in every sport falling in love with guys that are just,
He doesn't seem starstruck either. I was a little. First time I met Sammy Sosa and Barry Bonds,
he strikes me.
I was like, man, look at that. That's Barry. Holy.
I think it's fun in games for Davis Schneider, but I think he also realizes it's a business. He needs to get paid. I think he realized that.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anything wrong.
Window
with
to get
I don't think
paid.
there's anything wrong with it.
No.
We've been giving you the chance to win Blue Jays tickets all season long here in Blair and Barker. All you have to do is text the correct answer to our daily baseball trivia question to 59590. Our last trivia question and answer was, after 2 seasons with Pittsburgh in the mid-1990s, this longtime pitcher and current MLB analyst joined the Blue Jays from 1997 to 2002. The answer was Dan Plesac. I would not have gotten that.
Me either.
Today's question,
Just talk to me
this one I got. This one's easy. Today's question is to win tickets to see the Jays and Orioles at the Rogers Center on June 3rd. This pitcher turned position player is the only Canadian to play for both the Orioles and Blue Jays. Again, the question is, this pitcher turned position player is the only Canadian to play for both the Orioles and the Blue Jays. You can text the answer to 590 for your shot to win. See rules at sportsnet.ca/590, and you too could be off to see the Jays and Orioles. So we're going to be joined by Jeff Passan, MLB insider at ESPN, in a few minutes, and we'll keep our little secret for another day, perhaps.
Oh, I mean, yeah, he's working hard. So,
Well, he is.
Yeah, hitting homers.
Playing very well. I mean, we got to stop. We're going to give it away. But anyhow, 7:40 is the first pitch tonight. Don't forget, right here on Sportsnet 590, the Fan of Sportsnet and Sportsnet. Blair and Barker will be doing Blue Jays talk following the game, providing it isn't too late because I can't stay up. I have to be in bed by 11.
I'm with you.
I have to.
Number one, you're old.
Where did that come from?
Somebody's been waiting to push that button.
Oh, that was Passan. Okay. Apparently Passan. I presume he's talking about me.
No. Well, yeah.
I guess so. Anyhow, there you go. We'll be doing Blue Jays talk tonight. I'm reasonably certain of that.
You're positive, huh?
Positive.
No.
7:40 first pitch. I'll have my
Winning
I'll
edition.
have my milk and cookies, and I'll try to stay up. I'll try to stay up through it, or my bourbon and cookies, or whatever it is.
Ooh.
Jeff Passan joins us next. It's Blair and Barker. This is Sportsnet 590, the Fan, and Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker. 7:40 will be the first pitch tonight as the Jays take on the Chicago White Sox. And it'll be Alek Manoah on the mound for the Jays, Chris Flexen for the White Sox. And we'll see if Alek Manoah has a little bit of a rebound.
Finish his pitches. Finish them. Finish it. Like, man. Well, he knows what the problem is. Stop falling off that side of the play. Just, I mean, every once in a while you got to go, okay, what if I did this? Field your position. I know he's trying. I know they put in a lot of effort between starts, so hopefully he does it, and they need a really good start. They need to sweep this team, period.
Yeah.
End of story.
Well, I mean, we've talked about this.
Stop messing around.
You've got 3 games against the Pirates coming up. And you missed Jared Jones and Paul Skenes, who, by the way, he's currently pitching in game 2 of the doubleheader, 6 innings, pitched 2 earned runs, 9 Ks.
He seems like a handful.
The Tigers. Tarek Skubal pitched today, 7 innings, pitched 8 strikeouts, 1 base on ball. So those, yeah.
There's a future there with the Pirates. No, I think that's
better be.
That's what the point is.
Be.
Like, they're close.
Well,
spend a little money on some offensive players getting in there, and yeah, you're close.
Yeah,
And you could refine the pen. Absolutely, they're close.
Don't forget, though.
I know they don't like to spend money.
Pirates don't spend money. We have that trivia question. Russell Martin's contract is
2 for 17. That's crazy.
Still the biggest free agent deal they've given out. But yeah, look, I mean,
can't waste the Skenes thing. I mean, maybe they've never had a guy like Skenes, right? To sort of force them into, holy moly, this dude's really good. Maybe we have to spend money. I don't know. I would if I were an owner.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But
that place sold out every day. You don't think that'd be fun for baseball? I mean, it's a gorgeous place. It might be sold out anyway, but
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see. Like I said, we've seen it before with the Pirates. But yeah, I mean, you just look at that pitching and you go, my goodness. Anyhow, so Paul Skenes is currently pitching, and 6 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 9 strikeouts. Bring in Jeff Passan, MLB insider with
Happy Skenes Day.
Happy Skenes Day. It's all Happy Skenes Day. Yeah, it pretty much is. It might as well be a national holiday.
Absolutely.
I'm currently in an argument with a colleague of mine because I just sent out a tweet that said 4 starts into his time with the Pirates. Here, Paul Skenes' numbers: 22 innings, 15 hits, 2 home runs, 5 walks, 30 strikeouts, 2.45 ERA. It may be just the beginning of Skenes' career, but he's already establishing himself as one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. And a coworker of mine said, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah." name me guys you'd take over Skenes right now.
Well, we had this,
and I'll ask.
Yeah, we had this discussion the last time, and about must-win game, and Skenes was Barker's choice. And I mean,
I mean, them Phillies guys, they're pretty good. Wheeler's pretty good. Like Nola's pretty good. Like, some of them Braves guys, they're pretty good.
I would take him over Nola. I would take Skenes over
Probably,
Nola.
yeah. Power that time of the year plays, man. It really does.
Jeff, this may be one of these things.
Exactly right.
This may be one of these things where he is so good that people are instantly going to have a reflex reaction that, okay, yeah, let's see it the second time around, et cetera, et cetera. He may be one of those guys that's so good that people don't want to give him credit for being so good. It does happen. We do see that in sports.
I think that is such a good point, Jeff, and I think that's exactly what's happening here. And it makes you wonder: is it almost better to be Jared Jones, where you don't come up with any hype, and all of a sudden people are like, "Who's this guy? That's interesting. Oh, he throws 100." No, Skenes is just he's been doing this for like 3.5 years now, but on the national level for a couple of years now. And it's almost like we take him for granted. I don't think there's such a thing as being too good, too young. But in Skenes' case, I think it is a little bit of a detriment because people get sick and tired of guys being overexposed. The problem is, like, he backs it up. He is the goods. Mm-hmm. He's not hype. Like, the stuff plays, and he keeps it in the zone, and it's really hard to square up. And he's got 5 pitches, and all of them are nasty. And it takes a mistake, like he hung a slider to Matt Vierling, and it got hit over the fence. But, if the worst thing you can say about the guy on a day where he gave up 3 hits over 6 innings and punched out 9 is that he made one mistake, it's like, okay, don't take that.
Absolutely.
Jeff, you think that would force the Pirates to make moves? Like, would Jeff Passan be breaking Pirates trade moves here pretty soon because of the pitching they got now?
I don't know if that's going to happen this season. But I will say this. It is incumbent on Bob Nutting at this point to add this winter. They need bats.
Yeah.
And they need to go out and spend some damn money for the first time in Nutting's tenure as owner, and really for the first time in the history of the Pirates. Like, the Pirates have never spent. You can go back and look, and it was interesting. I was looking at the A's pack yesterday, right? And their attendance, essentially. And back in the early 90s, coming off the World Series appearances and win, the Oakland A's had the highest payroll in Major League Baseball. You can look back in the mid 90s. It's right around when the Yankees started spending. But at one point, I believe the Cleveland Indians, now Guardians, had the highest payroll in Major League Baseball. When you go and look at what the Pirates' history has been, it's gross. I mean, it really is. Let's look at the last, oh my God, I'm going back. They've not been higher than 19th in opening day payroll this century.
Right.
Let's go the last 10 years: 29th, 27th, 28th, 30th, 30th, 28th, 27th, 24th, 20th. Ooh, 20th at $99.94 million. 24th, 28th. That's the last decade. It's absurd. Yep. And if you're gonna own a Major League Baseball team, then don't run it like a minor league team.
Yeah, we'll see.
And that's unfortunately what the Pirates do.
Yeah, we do.
We had a trivia question to give away Pirates tickets. That the biggest free agent contract given out by the Pirates is Russ Martin, 2 years, $17 million, which is bizarre when you think.
That's not true, is it?
It better be, because we gave away tickets based on that. And if it isn't, Mark Boffo. If it isn't, Mark Boffo.
Why are you saying his name out loud?
Oh, there you go. Free agents that aren't their own players. Okay, there you go. So, yeah.
So say it right.
There you go. Well, I mean,
you said it wrong. And then you threw
free
him on
agents
the bus.
that aren't their own players. There you go. So yes, and there you go. 2 years, $17 million.
Yes, we're not afraid to throw people on the bus on this show.
No,
You notice that?
No.
Especially our leader. Our leader's not afraid.
Frankly, it's part of why I like you guys.
Well,
no sacred cows, man.
We take our lead from the GM here. We have no problem throwing somebody under the bus and backing the Greyhound over.
Man.
Back it over.
Also, that is not correct. It may be the biggest contract ever for a position player.
Buffo.
But didn't they get Francisco Liriano?
Well, you know what? Let's just pretend.
Well, they gave away the tickets anyway. So
yeah,
we're trying to give them away. Like somebody got them.
Yeah,
they got it right or
if
not.
you got those tickets, give the damn tickets back. Give them back now. Send them back to me because there's nothing worse than having a trivia question. Anyhow,
You know what? Actually, I'm going and looking at the Baseball Reference page now. They signed him to a 1-year deal for 2013. And then I believe after 2014, or a 2-year deal in 2013, and then after 2014, they gave him a 3-year, $39 million
there you
deal.
go.
So you know what, Mark, you are off the hook.
There you go.
My apologies for slandering your name, Mark.
There you go. Wow, there you go.
Hey.
I had no doubt. I mean, you'll notice how quickly I rushed to his defense.
He was smelling Mark's last name for everybody. Uh-oh.
Oh, that's. Oh, there it is. That's the Ross Atkins bus. Just keep driving it over until the body stops squirming. Once the body stops squirming, you can go on.
Oh, wow. I don't want to be a part of this.
So I'm intrigued about. Ross, he knows we're just kidding.
Yeah,
he knows
does.
Kidding.
Yeah, he does.
I'm intrigued about the incorporation of Negro League stats into the baseball record book, Jeff, for a couple of reasons. First of all, my reaction is great. I mean, I anything that can bring that chapter into a bigger picture, very good. But I had a discussion, and you may have had this discussion with our friend Howard Bryant about this, and I think it was Howard that was making the case that, yeah, as long as, we don't forget why, their stats were kept separate. I think it was Howard that said that, right? There was a reason that Negro League stats were kept separate. There was a reason the leagues were segregated. And, of course, when I saw the thing, the news, I immediately tweeted it out with a clapping hand emoji. And then I just kind of thought, and again, my reflex reaction is I think it's great, but I sort of keep hearkening back to that, Jeff. It's good for me because I know the history of it and I've read about it.
Yes.
I'd hate 25, 30 years down the road for that to be forgotten.
I think, Jeff, that every opportunity to retell the story of the Negro Leagues, why they existed, and why they were such a fundamental part of American history, not baseball history, American history, is a really important thing to do. I also do wonder if Major League Baseball's efforts to shed light on the Negro Leagues and how important they were have gone a little bit off the rails here, because it's almost like the idea of taking history that was really ugly and trying to rewrite it is making it ahistorical.
Yes.
The Negro Leagues were a major league. The Negro Leagues were not Major League Baseball. And they weren't Major League Baseball because racism and because it was pervasive in the United States and, particularly in the sporting world where people were actively excluded. To me, the greatest way to right a historical wrong is not by changing what history says. It's by making sure history doesn't repeat itself. And in those efforts, I must say, Major League Baseball is not doing a great job when it comes to having black players in its game right now.
Right.
I mean, we're at a nadir, and it's been going down toward that year after year after year. And getting young black youth to play Major League Baseball, African American, black Canadians. I mean, we can get into a discussion about skin color and Dominicans. If you talk with Dominicans, a lot of Dominicans identify as black. It's not just Dominican; that their skin color is black.
Yeah.
Regardless, in North America in particular, black youth doesn't really play baseball. I see it every single day during the spring when my son is playing for his high school team. And I see it all the time in the summer when he is playing on his travel team. There are just not a lot of young black baseball players. And granted, I'm in Kansas, so that's a little bit different. You get to places with larger centers of black population. That's a little bit different, but by and large, it really hasn't changed a lot in Major League Baseball. And to me, as nice as it is to have these statistics getting the due that they are owed, and to see Josh Gibson's name rightly up there with that of all the other greats in Major League Baseball history, I personally would rather see more black players in the game today. I think that, to me, would be the greatest righting of the wrong that was in baseball for as long as it was and for far too long.
Yeah, that's really well said. And I guess I guess the best thing out of it is the fact that there will be a lot of people now who will learn about the individual histories of those players, right? People will now maybe pay more attention to Josh Gibson's
absolutely
career.
If you see, that's the benefit of this, and why, even though my instinct is like, you can't call Negro League statistics Major League Baseball statistics because they were different leagues.
Right.
It's why I look at it, I'm like, the greater good here is that when you're looking at these, you're going to ask yourself, who is Josh Gibson and how did he put up this outlandish 1171 OPS over his career?
Yeah.
And how did he bat well over 400 in the season? And why is he at the top of the leaderboards? If that gets a kid who's looking at career leaderboards on Baseball Reference to look into, research, acknowledge, and understand the Negro Leagues better, then it's done its job. And it's a net positive in that case.
Yeah.
Jeff, how should I feel about Angel Hernandez leaving baseball?
Pretty good. I mean, look, he missed a lot of calls,
A lot.
more than his peers, and I think the amount of vitriol guided toward Angel Hernandez was disproportionate to the percentage of calls he missed versus his peers. A lot of it was reputation based, and frankly, by the end, I kind of felt bad for him because he's trying. He doesn't want to blow calls. It's embarrassing when you screw up in front of a stadium of 40,000 people and television audiences of hundreds of thousands of people, in some cases millions. That's a bad thing. But I think it also is a really interesting case study in the effects that social media has on our society. I think it's, before social media came along, Angel Hernandez was a guy you just rolled your eyes at. After social media came along, Angel Hernandez was someone that you and a million of your closest friends could go and rip on whenever he did something bad, even if the last 50 calls he made were right. And look, those good calls don't make up for the bad one, particularly his propensity to make bad calls in big situations. But at the same time, I think a little bit of context there would illustrate that as bad as Angel Hernandez was compared to his peers, he is better than you. Every single person listening right now barring some sort of a major league umpire or AAA or AA umpire listening to the show right now, Angel Hernandez is better at calling balls and strikes than you. He knows more about the game of baseball than you do. And I'm not saying that he needs your respect. I do think that we should acknowledge that he was still, even compared to his peers, not good. He was still among the best in the world at officiating baseball games.
Jeff, why now, 50 games into a season? Why not before the start of the season?
Great question.
Why not after the season? I don't know. Why not in the final day of the regular season? I mean, I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, which umpire announced that he was umpiring his final game.
Joe West did in February.
Yeah, that's right.
Before spring training, I think.
That's right. I was thinking of somebody else who announced the end of this is back in the 90s, and his final game was the final game of the regular season. And, he came out and at the end of the game and people gave him a round. I don't know if it's Frank Pulley. I just remember this. And I thought, okay, that's kind of the way you do it. You're a longtime umpire, you're retiring. You got your final game of the regular season. People will show you some respect. Boom, you're gone. Why now, though?
The sense that I've gotten is that it had just become too much for him and his family. Yeah. The amount of blowback that he would get, and you guys remember the J.P. France Wyatt Langford at bat. It was a clinic in just awful umpiring, awful ball strike umpiring. It was like the plate had expanded by 6 inches. It was an Eric Gregg Levon Hernandez zone. It was that bad. And I think Major League Baseball was frankly tired of Angel Hernandez being one of its most recognizable characters.
Yeah.
That's not an exaggeration. Guys,
no,
that's
an
exaggeration.
That's absolutely true.
He really was. And when somebody whose job it is to be invisible is one of your most visible characters, there's something absolutely wrong there. Why did he come back? He missed most of last season with a back injury, and I think he wanted to go back out there and do it again. And I get it. You spend 30-plus years in a job, guys. It's really hard to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Really hard to go away. And he could have continued umpiring ad infinitum, because the Major League Baseball Umpires Association, for all of its failures in the past, is a strong enough union to keep a lot of guys who fans, if they had their choice, would get rid of employed. And Angel Hernandez may have been at the top of that list.
Mr. Passan, we are going to let you run. Thanks for this as always, my friend. Appreciate it.
Way to go, buddy.
Pleasure's mine, gentlemen. Have a good one.
Take care. We'll see you. That's Jeff Passan, MLB Insider with ESPN. And the Athletic and ESPN have done really good articles on the Negro League, the incorporation of Negro League stats into Major League Baseball stats. And it's if you're kind of a historical bent,
sure,
it's like I said, just there are many, many layers to this particular story. I like the fact that, as I said, a lot of people are now going to learn about some of these players who haven't been given the rightful individual recognition they deserve. But I don't like the possibility that the entire history will be sort of swept under the carpet. That's the thing that concerns me. But I've always had this. We've always had this debate. It's the same thing with the Hall of Fame and steroids and putting an asterisk on. I like to think that baseball fans are smart enough that they can figure it out.
Absolutely.
When you go to Cooperstown with your child and you're looking at Barry Bonds in there, because if you're looking at somebody's plaque, you can say, anyhow. But there you go.
I can't believe Passan said that Angel's a better umpire than I am.
Oh, he is.
That's what he said.
Not as good as me, but he's better.
That's what he said. He said he's a better umpire than me.
Listen.
He's not a good umpire. That box on the TV
You know
screen is the
what?
worst thing that ever happened to Angel.
He's not.
That's the worst thing
See,
ever happened.
yeah,
It is the worst thing that's ever happened to him.
without
and
question.
a lot of umpires.
Without question.
Yeah.
Without question. And this gets into that argument we have. We had talked to Morgan Sword of the commissioner's office, and they don't even view the box. They view the strike zone as something more of an oval.
Well, that's what they think
yeah.
about umpires.
But my argument is always, well, then why are we? I understand why we do it. Just I don't want to get in that because then the TV people get upset with me because it's like I'm crapping on their product. I don't need the box. I don't need the strike.
I like the box.
You just like the box. You want to pick an umpire.
No, I like it that you're held to the same standard that I was. When I stunk, I was in double A.
I watch a game.
Why aren't you?
I like to think that I can
not
figure.
hard.
I can figure out what an umpire's strike zone is the first inning of a game.
Oh, it stinks or it doesn't?
Yeah, but I can tell. No, but I can tell, and I don't need. I can tell.
I
can tell.
They're shooting for perfection, Jeff.
Yeah, right. We're shooting perfection.
Shoot for the moon.
So there you go. So are we feel okay now with our trivia thing? We're okay with that.
I don't really care. I mean, we gave away the tickets. That's what this show's all about, right? We're
for the people.
Show for the people,
and we'll give you tickets.
Show for the people, no matter if it's wrong or not.
Yeah. But it's not wrong. It
as long as you
sounds
got
very
it right.
much like it's
as
right.
long as you got it right. At least the answer that we had. That's all.
Which would, in fact, make it even more trivial.
Yeah. Just remind me never to do this with you, so you'd be throwing me under the bus. I mean, you did everything, but
I didn't.
Sort of right. Yeah, there it is. Mark, you did everything but write his name on the TV screen.
I did not write his name on the TV screen.
It did. That's
just not. That's not true.
Yeah, that's 2 F's. Buffalo.
See, now you just did that.
Hey, you something else, boy.
Buffalo said Passan said the answer was right.
I know.
I was so confusing.
But you were so quick though. Wasn't me. Mark Buffalo. Buffalo.
You want to talk about responsibility and taking accountability.
You just read it. You just read it.
Taking accountability.
Yeah, you just read it. Yeah. And you're the first one to raise your hand and say, wasn't me.
I know. Maybe I need to exercise. Maybe that was just poor leadership on my part. Do you think it was?
You guys try to get along, won't you?
It was poor leadership on my part.
It's going around. It's going around, Jeff.
That's it for us. We'll be doing Blue Jays talk tonight. We'll be back tomorrow with another trivia question. Have a good night.